Daniel lesson 1. It's a little different from the morning class because it's just one chapter, except for the first 2 lessons, which are kind of doing an overview of the whole book before we start diving into the details. So I am not going to read the whole text today. There's no way we're going to be able to read through 6 chapters today. There's no way. So we're going forest today to kind of pick out the details of this. So what we're doing is ask you to go through for your homework and go through Daniel's chapter 1 through 6 and list out when the events occur. And then what kingdom or what king or king is ruling at the time, king or kingdom. And then the main characters of the chapter. And then also just kind of what in general the chapter is about. And then also if there was a vision or a dream. And who had it? And then what was it about? And so she's asking us to be very brief and very general with this. We're going to get into details later. And then also chapter king. So for those of you online, it's going to be really hard for you to see this board, so I'm going to have to take a picture of it and post it on YouTube. Or somewhere. Take a picture, have Holly send it. Post it on YouTube. Three and 2, and we have 1. Okay. So, Daniel chapter 1, we kind of did last time, but we're going to throw some stuff up. We're going to throw it up there anyway. So, for Daniel chapter 1, when did the events of this chapter occur? Yes. Yeah. So, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. So there's your marker. Daniel is really pretty good about, it's really easy. He starts off telling you when these things happen. So we have in the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. And I just realized I have a teaching chart in my hand. I don't make teaching charts, but I have Katie's teaching charts. So I can send those out. So we don't have to take pictures of the board. So I'll get those over to Polly. So the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, is when this occurred. And so then, who or what was the ruling kingdom at the time? Yes. Yes. So we have Nebuchadnezzar. We can even put Jehoiakim, king of Judah, because they were both ruling. And we see in the text that the Lord hands Judah over into Nebuchadnezzar's hand. So as we discussed last time, just setting context, and we'll hit this again in chapter 3. Before Babylon, Assyria was the world empire. Before Assyria, it was Egypt. So Nebuchadnezzar went and conquered Egypt, came up and conquered Assyria, and as he was coming back down, he conquered Judah as well. He was actually on his way back to Babylon to claim the throne. He found out his father just died. And so what these kings would do is they would come through and they would raid, and they wouldn't necessarily put a king under, or they wouldn't put one of their people as king. They would keep the king in place and make him pay tribute. That king would be subject to him. But we see here a switch in world empires from the Assyrian Empire to the Babylonian Empire. So Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon would be the main one. They were ruling. Jehoiakim, king of Judah, was ruling, but now Babylon is. So who are the main characters in this? Daniel, for sure. Nebuchadnezzar. God. So you can say
the supporting characters is
yes. So the three friends, Daniel's three friends, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, yes. So yes, and then you have, like you said, your supporting characters. You have the captain of the guard. Is it the captain of the guard in this one, or the Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials? It's the captain of the guard later. So, but your main ones are really God, Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel are your main characters in this chapter. God is always a main character, even in Esther, where the name of God is not mentioned once in that book, but God's fingerprints are all over it because it is an account of how he rescued the Jewish people from the hands of Haman. Haman had plotted and had tricked Xerxes into making an edict to where they could just wipe out the Jews. But God raised up Esther for such a time as this. So even though God is never mentioned, he still is a main character. So God, Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel. Those are your three main ones. So then, so you can just go in and fill this in, right? You can fill in at least one of them across the board. But I think in chapter 6 it might be a different name. So then, she asked you, what in general is the chapter about? Yes. So God gives Judah into the hands of Babylon. And also, what else? Yes, Daniel entering the king's service. The plain thing is the main thing. When we get to chapter 1, we'll develop paragraph themes and get into the details and things like that. Was there a vision in this one, in chapter 1?
Yeah. Nebuchadnezzar had one.
In chapter 1?
That one? Go on in the next chapter.
Yeah. 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 1 through 6, it's, yeah. And you're gonna, when next week, you're gonna see a segment division start playing out here, how this works. So there was no vision, no dream, there. And so then, what is what's a chapter theme that you may have developed for chapter 1? And mind you, these are not just doing overview. A lot of times whenever you come in and start doing the details, you might come up with a different chapter theme. So always write your chapter themes right now in pencil. So what would be a good chapter theme for this one? What's the main thing?
Captivity of Judah.
Yeah. So Judah, Judah's sons, put into king's service, put in captivity and into king's service. So I do tend to go long on my chapter themes and my paragraph themes. I'm a more detailed person. And that's probably why I can't make a teaching chart to save my life. But we'll just let Katie do that. And the classes I teach that Katie's never taught and she doesn't have teaching class or teaching charts for, you're on your own, kids. So anyway, so we have chapter 1. We have the main thing is the plain thing here. So moving on to chapter 2. Boy, when do these things happen? Mm-hmm. Yes, the second year of Neb's reign. We're going to talk about this. But we have the second year of Neb's reign. And so, who is your king or kingdom? Yep. Neb and Babylon. And then, who are your main characters in here? Yeah, yeah. God.
It's the same,
It's pretty much the same. It's Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel. There is a lot of what we would call supporting characters. And just because we are using literary terms does not mean that this is just literature that somebody came up with. This is a true historical account. It's just kind of easier for us to apply literary terms to this. So we have God, Neb, and Daniel again. So in general, what was the whole, what's was this chapter about?
Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
Yep. Yes. Yes. Neb has a dream. I have a dream. And then Daniel interprets. Who did he get the interpretation from? Yeah, God gave him the interpretation. So Daniel interprets from God, or God gave him the interpretation. Can go up there as well because that's really important. Just modern day prophets. It's like, yeah, what are you prophesying about? And what are you interpreting? So are you getting the interpretation from God? Does the prophecy line up with God's word? Or are you just making stuff up to inflate yourself? So Neb has a dream, Daniel interprets, and so was there a vision in this? Or a dream? Yes. And what was the vision? Statue. Yep. And we'll get into the details of the statue. We're gonna do chapter 2. Makes chapter 3 really interesting. So, what can we, what's a good chapter theme for this one?
But no statute.
Yes, that's a good one. Yes, very simple. Like I said, these might change. And sometimes even not, you'll see a bunch of different kind of chapter themes and segment divisions and things like that. And it doesn't mean that everybody's wrong and one person is right. It's kind of because the plain ones, Neb statutory, it's correct. It's not wrong. But yeah,
The interpretation coming through that one is pretty good.
right. And then what is it about? It's kind of layer upon layer upon layer. So when I'm teaching Second Samuel, I could go, really high forest. But sometimes I dial in on something because I'm looking at what is the book theme. And so then when we develop our book theme, our paragraph, our chapter themes are going to change a little bit. So, yeah. And so we're going to have to come up with our book theme. We're going to have to come up with key verses. So, Deb was here last week, and she was like, I don't know anything. I'm totally new to this. But she dialed in on something. What is a key repeated phrase just from chapter 1 and chapter 2? What's one of the things we're looking at here? It might end up being a key word. I mean, there's kind of two things that might end up being a key word, but so far we've only had one of them.
It's not keep showing.
Well, God is always a key word. Always, you always mark God. One of the things you do too is look up the original Hebrew, like what name of God are they using and things like that. That's when you get more into your details. But when this happened, that's not, you're just figuring out when it happened. What about king and kingdom? That's a key word. That's something I can mark. What about the main characters? I mean, I can mark those main characters, but and then what is this about in general? Vision and dream. Yeah, that's a key word. But so far we've only had one of these. But what have we had in both chapters? Yeah. So that might possibly, if she's asking for that, it might possibly be related to our book theme. And we're going to have to start looking at key verses. For what are our key verses that tell us what that book theme is? So like for Samuel, our book theme is God's search for a man after God's own heart. And God actually says that about David. So you pull out that verse and that's your key verse. So, yeah. Chapter 2, statute dream. There might be a key verse. So, okay, we have done chapter 1 and 2. What about 3? When did these events happen? Yes. It doesn't really say, does it? So whenever you get these chapters that it doesn't say, you can assume it happens after the statute dream. So who is the king or kingdom?
It's the same.
It's the same. Main characters. Yes.
It shows up as the fourth man in the flag.
Yes, so we
From
have
my note.
the fourth man. So that's how we're gonna name him on our chart. He's the fourth man. We're gonna identify him later, but we call him the fourth man. And so he's key. Who else?
No.
Ned, large and in charge. And then who else?
Oh, the three.
The three friends. Yeah, we'll just, to shorten it, we call them the three friends. And Daniel is conspicuously absent from this. When we get into chapter 3, we can talk about that, discuss that. But obviously, he's not going to bow down to a golden statue, so he wasn't there. He's not in this narrative. So there's some really cool things about this that we'll kind of get into the details when we do chapter 3. So, what in general is this about?
The fourth man rescuing the three.
Yeah, so Neb has a statue. He tells everybody to bow down. It's a golden statue, all gold. So interesting. So Neb's he has a statue, bow down or die, right? The three didn't bow down, and then the fourth man rescues him. So we actually discussed this, following the law this morning, and yes, we follow man's law, but if God's law always supersedes man's law. And so if I'm going to get thrown in the fire because I don't bow down to the statue, I'm still following the law. I get thrown in the fire. I mean, I might run away or something and try to save myself, but, by going to jail, by getting thrown in the fire, I'm still following the law. And that's what these guys did. They were like, we're not going to bow down. Sorry. So, vision or dream in this one? No. And then a good chapter theme for this one.
I had fiery furnace blessed by your God.
Yeah. So, that's a good one. I'm going to put fiery furnace and fourth man rescues. We're going to refine these as we're going along.
The fourth man rescues saves three.
Yeah, the fourth man rescues. Okay. So whenever you're doing your chapter themes, like even if your paragraph themes and stuff, you want it to come from the text, and you want to use the words the text says. Even if you ferret out that who this fourth man is, you want to use the word fourth man. I really try to, a lot of times whenever I'm doing my homework, I do different things. When I'm teaching a live class, I tend to use my observation worksheets, but whenever I'm teaching a Zoom class, I put everything into a spreadsheet, and teach that way. So, but yeah, I will, on my Zoom classes, I'm copying and pasting the exact text to formulate my chapter themes. So yeah, you want to use the exact text. We want to get to when we're really doing this, we're putting a verse number next to it. So right now we're just kind of, this is broad overview. So then chapter 4, what do we got going on here? Uh-huh. We have 2 authors going on there. Good catch.
Still saying King of Kingdom.
Uh-huh. So this is chapter 4.
I don't show when. It doesn't
Yeah, so it's after 3. From the text, we can pull out that his dominion had grown to the end of the earth, and now he was at ease. That could be a win. Look at what I did. Oh, really? Okay, what did chapter 1 say? So, yeah, this is definitely after the statue dream, or not the statue, not the statue dream, the statue thing, the golden statue, and then also when his dominion had grown. So this is just following a narrative. This is just, we're looking at this, it's like we got boom, 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 we've got historical narrative, right? This is history. This is what happened. We have one dream or vision prophecy here, but pretty much it's a historical narrative. Might have a segment division going here. So King or Kingdom, same, Neb and Babylon, and then the main characters in this one. Neb and yeah, yeah, definitely. And who else? Daniel, because he interpreted, which leads us. Yeah, so we could put. So was there a vision or a dream in this one? Yeah. And then, so what was that vision or dream?
The tree dream.
The tree dream. He had a dream about a tree, and this vision or dream prophecy was pretty much, it happened pretty succinctly. We can timeline it out when we get to chapter 4, but this happened in Nebuchadnezzar's lifetime, the events in this prophecy. Chapter 2, different story, but chapter 4, it happened in his lifetime. So we have the tree dream. And then, so what in general are the events of this chapter?
And having the tree dream and Daniel interpreting it.
Those are the main things, right? And it coming true. Yeah, Neb has the dream, and the, yeah. It gets chopped out. Neb has a dream, Daniel interprets, and it happens, right? It's fulfilled. Don't mess with God. So yeah, I don't know. After I had that dream and Daniel interpreted it, and everything that Daniel has done so far has been correct, I think I would have just like caved in right then, possibly. I don't know. I can be hard-headed too, but so like yeah. So he has that tree dream, and what would be a good chapter theme? Yeah. Um, yeah. I have Tree Dream, Neb Humbled and Restored. Um, Daniel interprets Neb's Tree Dream. That's not a bad one either. I've done Neb's Tree Dream before. So I'm gonna put that up there just for time's sake. So whenever I first started doing precepts, my paragraph themes were, it's like, okay, now we're gonna write a paragraph about the paragraph. Because, I was very detailed, and now I'm learning, like, okay, come up forest, your trees are in your lists and things like that. And then I do tend to get a little more minor, longer. But when I first started, my chapter themes were like, it was, Neb's tree dream, Neb's statue dream. When you are get kind of more into it and start pulling it together with your book theme and things like that, like as you go along in the years from doing this, your chapter themes are going to dial in, and they might expand a little bit, probably not as large as mine. I will have two going on my papers. I'll do a semicolon. I'll have one up here and one down here.
Sometimes there's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. So your paragraph themes and your chapter themes are trying to get you to the main point. And so you can put those on your at a glance chart. And so then later on, whenever you're somewhere, and they have them in these NISB Bibles in the back of the book that you're studying. So you can go and transfer all that information. And they also have a line here where you can put the chapter theme in the book. But if you're at church or another Bible study or Sunday school or just talking to somebody and they're saying something, wait a second, and it's been a minute since you last studied that book, you can go and pull out your at a glance chart and you can immediately jog your brain, get into context, and see if what they're saying is correct. Because you're like, okay, whoa, time out, wait a second. There's a lot of cockamamie things going on out there. And I mean, I went to a church, this was years ago, and they would read chapter by chapter. And like you read a chapter a week and then you came in and discussed it. We got to Matthew chapter 24, which is going to be big cross-reference when we do Revelation. And they were like, I don't know, we've studied a lot of commentaries and everybody's just all over the place. And I just don't really think we'll ever know what this is really about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? If you really were studying chapter by chapter and doing all of these things, you would know. If you were putting everything into context, looking at literary flow, looking at historical context, looking at the text, making your paragraph themes, your chapter themes, your list, if you were doing your cross-referencing and your timelining and whatever else we do in here, you would know what Matthew 24 is about. And it starts off. I mean, it's like, hey, what's the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Okay? That might be a chapter theme. So it's Jesus laying out the sign of his coming and of the end of the age. So I'm,
You know,
it's like, I'm just sitting there like, and I was like, yeah, I did nicely say we can know what this is about, and this is what it's about. But if you've done this, you can confidently go in there, look at your at a glance, and get right into context and be like, oh, okay, yeah. Let's start cooking with peanut oil. And you can tell when people are just, and you can set everybody straight. Nicely. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you hear things all the time and you're like, is that in the Bible? And then you can be like, well, I've studied that book. I can go in and look. So, chapter 5. When did
after the tree.
after the tree? Okay, so yeah, so he gives us a clue. He says Belshazzar, the king, had a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he was drinking wine in the presence of the 1,000. So who's the king?
The king is still, it's Belshazzar.
Yes, it's Belshazzar. Ooh. So this is, what's the kingdom? Yeah, it's the Babylonian kingdom still. But we have a different king.
So
And-
her, Belshazzar, right?
Yes, so I would have to go and ferret out when, either through a history book or something like that, she has handy dandy little charts for us, of when Belshazzar reigned. So we can start kind of dialing in some dates on some of this, as far as our BC dates. But we have Belshazzar. There's been a king change here from Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar is deceased. If you look at a chart, this is his grandson. So it's during Belshazzar's reign. I can dial this in a minute by looking at a chart when we get to chapter 6. What happens at the end of chapter 5?
Babylon falls.
Yeah. Babylon falls to the Medes and the Persians. So this is at the very, very end of his reign.
Oh, yeah.
He's gone. I love chapter 5. I'm just, so anyway, so who are the main characters?
Belshazzar.
Yes. Belshazzar, who else? Well, who is the main because is there a dream or a vision?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And saying Daniel's in there, yes. So
Daniel, and then there's a hand,
There's
there's
what?
a hand writing on the wall.
Yeah.
So,
God.
God,
Yeah.
yeah. So in general, what happens here? What's the main thing?
Daniel is asked to, or, yeah, to interpret.
Daniel,
the Bible.
yeah, so Daniel interprets the handwriting on the wall. That could also, honestly be a chapter theme. But also there was, there was the feast, there was this, and there was the handwriting on the wall. You get into your details as to why. One of the reasons why I really like chapter 5 is because it ends up being a fulfillment of chapter 2 within Daniel's lifetime. And we're going to see another segment division pop up here. There are several segment divisions in Daniel. You could just almost keep going and going and going. So we have the vision of, yes, we have the handwriting on the wall. And then, so what's our chapter, I think?
I have the writing is on the wall, Babylon falls.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the handwriting on the wall, ah, okay. Chapter 6. When does it happen? Yes, in the reign of Darius, right? Uh-huh. We're going to talk about all this. So, the beginning of the reign of Darius over that area. So, who's the king in the kingdom? Cyrus and Darius. And who is the kingdom? The Medo-Persians, yeah. I'm going to repeat myself and repeat myself and repeat myself. There have been 7 world empires before Christ comes. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia. We'll get to the rest of them. I'm prepping you for Daniel chapter 17. Or not Daniel, Revelation. It's like, you gotta do some math here. Okay, so, we have the reign of Darius, it's Cyrus and Darius, the Medo-Persian Empire. So who are the main characters in this one? Mm-hmm. Darius, who else? Daniel and
God.
mm-hmm. What? How is that one in chapter 6? How does it describe him? The man that? No. He shuts. Mm-hmm. And he sent his angel. So I'm gonna put God and his angel. Okay, so what in general happened here?
Daniel gets thrown in.
Yeah, for what?
For, wasn't it because he wouldn't, follow the, or bow down, follow
Uh-huh. There was a plot.
the, yeah,
Yeah, there was a plot against Daniel.
to try to get him to follow the laws or whatever.
Yes, and so he gets thrown in the lion's den. And then he's rescued by his angel, right? Yeah, so this is where, you know, okay, the law of the land, the king made this decree. He was, you know, suckered into making this decree because they had a plot against Daniel. He makes a decree that, you know, if you don't do this, you get thrown into a lion's den. Well, Daniel didn't do it because it, you know, God's law supersedes man's law, so he gets thrown in the lion's den. Still following both laws. So, do we have a vision in this one? No vision. And then, chapter 8.
Rescued from the lions.
Yes.
By his angel.
Yes. Daniel rescued from lion's den. I have on here by his God. So now we have a pretty good shakedown of what's going on here for chapters 1 through 6. I mean, this is kind of nitty gritty. We all want to jump in and we want to talk about chapter 2 and, you know, get to the headlines. But we kind of got to build on here. And so we have our historical narrative right here so far. We have a little bit of prophecy. We have a couple of visions, and those visions were fulfilled. The prophecy of those visions, or what have you, were fulfilled pretty immediately. Nebuchadnezzar's was within a year with his tree dream, and Belshazzar was immediately with him falling to the Medo-Persian Empire. So, yeah. We do have a prophecy that spans longer here. And we have a key word that's always running through here, king and kingdom. So what would be a good kind of book theme, we think? Who put, just starting out in chapter 1, who handed Jehoiakim, king of Judah, over to Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah, God. And we go down, you know, it's like here we're trekking along, there's Nebuchadnezzar, chapter 4. Oh, chapter 3 is interesting, we want to get to the book theme, but chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar's like, oh, look at, hey, yeah, look at what I've done. But what does God say? You didn't do this.
Yeah.
I did this. You know, So Nebuchadnezzar is humble. Nebuchadnezzar is like, I did this. If you look at chapter 3 with his all gold statue, he's he's thinking he's going to do this. He's done this. He's going to keep this. And in 4, I've done this. God says, no, you haven't. And Nebuchadnezzar is humble. So, then in chapter 5, Nebuchadnezzar is dead. Belshazzar, he has some problems. And God, puts the handwriting on the wall, and he's told that you're done. And he is done. That Babylon falls to the Medo-Persians that very night.
God laying out the time.
Yeah. So,
How it's all going to
yeah. So, who raises kings and deposes kings?
Yes.
God. So you're looking for key verses of, where is that said in Daniel? So who has said that in Daniel? And in what chapter? Of who,
Hmm?
who has said that? What verse has said that? There's 2 people who have said that. Same thing.
Oh, that God.
Uh-huh.
That?
Mm-hmm. Daniel, in what verse of chapter 2? Look for verse 20 and read after that. So Daniel said, yes, 21. So in 21, in 20, but Daniel said, let the name of God be blessed forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. It is he who changes the times and the epochs. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to wise men and knowledge to men of understanding. It is he who reveals the profound and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. So, key verse would be Daniel 2 through 21, or 2 and 21. It is he who changes the times and the epochs. It is he who establishes or removes kings and establishes kings. So who else said it?
Did Ned end up
Mm-hmm.
saying that?
Yeah, and now I can't find it.
Probably somewhere
So 34, but at the end of that period, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes towards heaven, and my reason returned to me, and I blessed the Most High and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion. And his kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are accounted as nothing, but he does according to his will in the host of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and no one can ward off his hand or say to him, what have you done? Okay, it's him who raises kings and deposes kings. We know that Daniel is very prophetic. And so whose kingdom are we trying to get to? It just says here in chapter 4, his dominion is an everlasting dominion. So chapter 2, yeah, to Christ. Christ's physical reign on earth. We call it the millennial kingdom. Well, why can't it just be over at Armageddon? Because there's some covenants that need to be fulfilled. So I think that was 34 through 35. Those are good key verses for Daniel in developing our good faith. It's he who, I got to say it from the text instead of how I normally say it. It is he who removes kings and establishes kings. His dominion is forever. That can be your book theme. It's him who does it. So, if you don't like who's in the White House, who do you need to talk to? Yeah. So yes, he is the one. Now, we can talk about how Satan does things, but everything that Satan does has to pass through the hands of God. And what Satan means for evil, God intends for good. We're walking down his timeline. So this is how he's meted it out. When we get to chapter 1, we're going to figure out why he put Judah into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. We've talked about it in our intro or whatever, but we'll talk about it again. It's really imperative that you understand what this is all about and the whys to it. So we have a historical narrative that just kind of trucks down the road from Babylon being large and in charge to now we're down to Medo-Persia. We have a historical narrative, one vision here that we see fulfilled within a span of years down here, part of it. And then we have these little things in 4 and 5 that were fulfilled pretty much immediately, this one within a year, this one that night. So your visions in here, except for chapter 2, pretty succinct, but there are parts of chapter 2 that are going to go legal. Now, whenever you're going through 7 and 12, you're going to hit another segment division. I really want you to pay attention to your time phrases. It's going to get a little fun. Yeah, we'll start talking about the whys on that as well. Because we're given a historical narrative, we're given information here, but the information that you're going to get in 7 and 12 is going to pertain specifically to one nation. So we get information for the church and the church age and when we get raptured and what happens after we get raptured and things like that. 2 and 7 are our big chapters, and everything builds after that. We do get information about the Antichrist and what he's going to be like. We can all make our speculations, but the New Testament tells us that the Antichrist won't be revealed until after the rapture of the church. So it's not King Charles, he has cancer. We can all make our speculations, but it won't be revealed until the rapture of the church. Now, we are here in history, and we can definitely see who's building the beast kingdom. Elon Musk is building the tech. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it there. So there's a lot of things going on prophetically that we get from Daniel that we can see, oh yeah, that's happening and that's happening and that's happening. But it's not really a lot of things we have to worry about. And we're paying attention to times, and it starts getting very minute in the wording. So we're brought over here and then 7 through 12. But we're laying this down to where next week we will have some good segment divisions of the book, and we'll see why. And then we can kind of start putting things in place. So chapters 1 through 6, whenever we go through them, it's going to be very historical. Some things are going to pertain to our time from chapter 2, but a lot of this is pertaining to Daniel's time. So whenever we're doing this, we want to get to the headlines, right? What's going to happen? But there's a lot of things in here as well. You're looking at, you're doing character studies on people and how they responded and what they did and things like that. There's a lot of application in here as well. Whenever we get into Revelation, I remember the first time I did it, I was like, oh gosh, I could do part 1, letters to the churches or whatever. And, it ended up being one of my favorites because I saw how Jesus speaks individually to each person. He uses their language. He uses the things that they know to speak to them. And so there was a lot of application upon application upon application. And it's going to be the same with Daniel. There's a very, beautiful thing that happens in here. You're like, oh, this is horrible. Nebuchadnezzar, and you go back in history, he was not a nice guy. And then you get to chapter 4, and you're just like reading about this. It's like he's puffed up, and then chapter 4, he's puffed up. The end of chapter 4, are you kidding me? And look at what God did through Daniel. This is a horrible situation. You're put into captivity. You're put into the king's service. You have we're going to talk about that in chapter 1, what that probably entailed. And you're just in the king's service, and there you are, and your family, we don't know where they are, they're never mentioned. At least he has his 3 friends. There's no wife, there's no kids. You're in the king's service. He was young. Like, this is a horrible situation. But we're going to look at how Daniel behaved and how he talked to his captors and how he ministered to them and wanted their good. He was a slave. What does the New Testament tell us about how slaves are to be to their masters? And we can apply that to our bosses. Because why? Is it because God wants us to suffer? No, because he doesn't want those people to suffer. Later on, down the road, it's life and death. We're trying to get everybody to one place, to the same place. And somebody as horrible as Nebuchadnezzar can be forgiven. I've been asked the question, you know, is it possible Hitler can be in heaven? Well, yeah, it is possible. He could have at the last minute repented and he could be there. And hallelujah, praise be to God, because if he can be there, I can be there. I mean, you know, like, we need to stop limiting God's power, and we need to stop judging other people. Like, oh my gosh, what they did was so horrible, they'll never make it. What did Jesus die for? So, this is a really beautiful story. There is lots of application in this, and just throwing down the legs of this, and we will eventually get to the headlines. And there will still be application as we get through this. So you have some chapter themes going on. We're able to pull out some key verses for some key words, and we kind of have a general idea. We'll do the same thing for 7 through 12, and then lesson 3, we can start doing the details. Now, if you want next week, you can pull out some charts and stuff like that, and we could possibly put some dates on here. When did Nebuchadnezzar come into power?
I think that was the 56.
You got 2 numbers right. 605 BC. So when? 605 BC. This one is going to be a little trickier. But we can come down here. We can look at the end of Belshazzar's reign. We can look at when this guy started reigning, and we can put some dates on that too. So next week we should be able to start putting some dates. 7 through 12, you kind of get like some different dates. You're probably going to have to look at the chart as far as like this king was reigning in the first year and the second year and blah, blah, blah. And then if it doesn't say a date, you can bet it's successive. Those chapters are together. Chapters are man-made. So just like 1st and 2nd Samuel, that used to be all one book, and they broke it up. Samuel wasn't even alive for 2nd Samuel. So, yeah, so we figured it, you know, Samuel and a scribe wrote 1st and 2nd Samuel. Why is it named Samuel if it's mainly about Saul and David? Well, because Samuel was the one that anointed those kings and was integral in, you know, the switch from the period of the judges to the period of kings. He was the last judge of Israel, so that's why it's the book of Samuel. And it was a big deal because, you know, Scripture is, all Scripture is God breathed, and so the Holy Spirit's hand was on the writer of that book, and big deal right out of the chute is Samuel. His mom, how did he get here? How did he get to the priesthood? You have a big whole section about Samuel, and then you get into Saul and David and stuff like that. So, right out of the chute here, we're seeing what's the big thing? Woo! Shake up in history. But what's the big thing about this narrative at this point in history? Are we told why? Nope. That is not the Holy Spirit with his hand on Daniel. That's not the point of this whole narrative, is to tell you why. You've got to go somewhere else to figure that one out. So what's the point of this? It is
Show
he.
how
Yeah.
we-
It is he who changes the times and the epochs. It is he who,
Let's be-
yeah. And so, and his dominion lasts forever and ever. So then what is Daniel gonna try to tell us? So, we're gonna have it all figured out by the end of next week. Not really. So, there you go. That's the end of that. So I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody.